with that said, we're going to move to our final question. This is our rapid fire question. I'm going to go to everybody on the screen, and it's going to be in my order, left to right, as I see them. Quick answer to this question. 30 seconds or whatever. What or who are your go-to sources for advice when facing a tough decision? And Tom, you are the lucky person to be just to my left, and we'll get started with you.
Actually, it's a former manager. Works at a completely different company now. I don't do it within the company. I'll go to somebody I trust outside and bounce ideas off of him because I know it's a good sounding board. We've got a long history together, and everything will stay confidential, and he's reliable.
Awesome. Brian, you are next in the queue.
I'd say I start with my peers, my fellow product managers.
Inside your company.
Well, inside my company. They're familiar with the product, the environment, the culture. So just to get their viewpoint on what's driving people's decisions to continue or not to continue. And then also bounce the data off of them. Does this make sense? Is my interpretation of this data correct? I think, you can get overwhelmed with so much data. It's always good to have second, third pair of eyes look at it to make sure how you're seeing it makes sense and you're not making things up with the data. Sort of like with statistics, data,
yeah,
you can lie about anything.
Take your biases away.
Correct.
Yeah. John Harmer, you are next in queue.
It depends on the context of the tough decision. It's either my manager and or some PMs in my organization, or if it's the kind of thing that I think is a little more sensitive to not to the organization, but whatever, but like that I need external help. I have a group of like 3 or 4 dudes in a Slack channel that we talk about this stuff all the time.
Awesome. That sounds like a band name. 3 or 4 dudes in a Slack channel. All right, Greg Fenton.
I basically the same thing. It depends upon the context. So I don't have my 3 dudes in the Slack channel, but it depends upon the, I have partners within the company, whether it's my marketing partner or, my revenue partner, things like that. And also my senior executive, or if it's, some other types of tough decisions of how to actually move forward, I have trusted people I've worked with for many, many years to bounce ideas off, and we know we can go back and forth and be brutally honest with each other. And it's okay to call me stupid, in that type of 3 dudes channel.
Awesome. Monica, you are next.
Yeah, it would usually be my peers or fellow product managers, and my manager, of course. I think he would be the first one that I would reach out to usually, and he's really good. And yeah, and my VP of product strategy too. So
awesome. Jason Vincelette.
Well, for the product management gig, it would have to be the chief product officer at my organization. He's got a level and sound way of thinking about things and kind of working through Q&A, and he's very data driven as well. So that tends to work pretty well. For everything else, it has to be my wife, who keeps me from doing everything stupid.
And this whole question was written because your answer was that Steve was the person you went to.
Not for just that one, the first one, but then I learned.
All right, Paul Hurwitz.
So I've got a couple of different sources. Number one, if it's just a general business type of question that I just need some advice on, I've got a former manager that I haven't worked for in 8 or 9 years, but she's still the one that I go back to. She was VP of engineering at the startup up in Boston I was at. I still go back to her for advice. If it comes to product advice that I'm just looking to help me vet something or think about an idea, there's a product management mentorship program based here in New York, Jeremy Horn's group, the product mentor. I've been mentoring in that group for several years now. And I become good friends with several of the mentors. And they're typically my sounding board. These 3 or 4 guys, not in the Slack channel, but 3 or 4 guys that I go to when I want to sound off on some ideas.
Awesome. And for me, I'll answer the question. I actually have a couple of different, it depends, right? I've got one person I go to who to validate how smart I am and how stupid other people are who disagree with me. You know, but that's more of the rah rah, you know, you're right, you know, but I have, you know, I've got a former customer and partner who, if I'm digging through things and trying to figure things out, that's who I go to. And I also have a lifelong friend who I've also done work with, who I go to for help on the communication side, right? There's one part of helping me make the decision, but the other part is helping me figure out how to position it, you know, how to either write an email, and I'll send full copy to them and they'll rip it to shreds and get it to the point. So, you know, for me, there's that multiple, I agree. It depends on the type of situation, but also it's also which component of the situation.